TheWhoThatDaily.com. That's right, TheWhoThatDaily.com. Your one-stop shop for everything New Orleans Saints, New Orleans Pelicans, LSU Tigers, even the top flight boxing news. So if you're a Who That and you're looking for a place to stay up on your team, TheWhoThatDaily.com is your site. TheWhoThatDaily.com for the sport Who That in all of us.
Go Tigers, go Tigers, go Tigers, go Tigers, go Tigers.
Tiger talk.
Go Tigers, go Tigers, go Tigers, go Tigers, go Tigers.
Tough Tiger talk.
Go Tigers, go Tigers, go Tigers, go Tigers, go Tigers.
Tough Tiger talk.
Go Tigers, go Tigers.
You're now listening to Tuff Tiger Talk with Big Q and the guys on the Pro Media Network.
You're now tuned in to Tuff Tiger Talk on the PRO Media Network. I'm Big Q chiming in with this installment of Tuff Tiger Talk. Season finally comes to an end for LSU, and thank goodness. It was a tumultuous season, ups and downs, total disappointment. Finally, on the back end of the regular season, LSU was able to get to 500 to get a bowl game, the Texas ACT Texas Bowl game, which was a complete and utter disaster. And much love and appreciate the family for joining me in this episode of Tuff Tiger Talk. Much love to you guys. Please feel free to hit the like button. Please subscribe to Tuff Tiger Talk. Much love to you guys. And above all, please feel free to share the show links on your social media feed. And this one, man, we're going to cover quite a few storylines from LSU. And I am so happy that the season is over with. It was an absolute disaster. Like I said, the team finally made it to 500 on the back end with a 2-game winning streak, only to get this ridiculous bowl game, which, in my opinion, shouldn't have happened where it was. Where it played at, it should have been played between sometime in December, anytime before the New Year's, in my opinion. It was another disaster. They didn't even have a quarterback. John Trey Kirkland had to act, the wide receiver had to act as a quarterback in the game. And it was just a disaster, man. And I'm so glad that this regular season is over with. And this is how Ed Orgeron's legacy, or not his legacy, but his tenure ends at LSU with this dismal bowl game, which, in my opinion, we should have just forfeited the goddamn thing, to be honest with you. But anyway, let's get into it. And I don't want to spend too much time on it because it's not nothing really to talk about in this one. LSU just got mollywopped 42-20 to Kansas State. They just took them apart in Houston. And nothing, it was over with by halftime. And then, of course, Kansas State went into it and just collapsed them. And like I said, there's not really much to talk about it here. The game was over with in halftime, in my opinion. It just wasn't much of anything that I would really like to talk about. Insofar as LSU it just showed you on the end of the year pretty much what we expect to happen when you'd have looked at and we covered it in the previous stream when we took a look at the roster that LSU had released, as most of these guys have completely checked out because the previous for their red-shirted status, to protect their red-shirt status. Other guys didn't want to know, because it was no benefit of playing this game from their perspective. And of course, you had guys that transferred, and it just was a total debauchery of what, it was just it was awful. In my opinion, this is probably one of the worst bowl games that I ever watched with LSU. It was poorly done. It shouldn't have been where it was in terms of scheduling. And this just was an utter disaster. And there's nothing really to talk about good in this one, 42-20. None of their top people in terms of offensive pieces were there to help them. They had a lot of guys in there that weren't familiar. The coach, was the offensive line coach, and not even Orgeron was able to finish out. It was just awful, man. And I hate to tell you that, but it was, you guys know, if you LSU people, that was a outright flipping disaster. But anyway, with that situation totally gone, man, and thank goodness that is finally over with. Let's talk a little football outside of what we've seen this past season, man, as we move ahead and look at the future of LSU sports. And contract details released revealed by Denbrock and Matt House, who are now the new coordinators for LSU's offense and defense. So this is an article from LSU Football Wire. And let's cover it, shall we? And get into some better news than what the hell we seen from that Kansas State game. All right, here it goes. And this is from Patrick Kahn. LSU made 2 key hires at the top of the new look Brian Kelly staff. Denbrock comes over from Cincinnati to run the offense, while Matt House leaves the NFL to run the defense, according to Akoki Riley of the Daily Advertise, we know what the contracts look like. The new LSU coordinator, Mike Denbrock, will make $4.2 million across 3 years before incentives, and new defensive coordinator Matt House has signed a 3-year contract worth $5.7 million. LSU released Denbrock's contract information to the USA Today Network on Friday after public records request, and House's contract was revealed Thursday as well. Now, Denbrock rejoined his former boss Kelly after 4 years with Cincinnati. He wasn't a part of Kelly's Bearcat staff, but he was hired onto the initial Notre Dame staff. He also spent time with new LSU head coach at Grand Valley State. Now, Denbrock's predecessor, Jake Peets, was paid $1.35 million for 21, and he will be on a similar pay structure for the Tigers based on the contract information. Now, Denbrock will be a top 20 paid assistant. He made 470 G's with the Bearcats, according to USA Sports. Now, Denbrock, the former offensive coordinator at Cincinnati, will make $1.3 million in the first year, $1.4 in the second, $1.5 in the third. And if LSU qualifies for a bowl game, Denbrock will make an additional $15,000 and another $100,000 if the Tigers win a national championship. Now, for House doesn't have previous ties to Kelly, but he does have the SEC ties from time with Kentucky. He left Lexington for Kansas City prior to the 2019 season and was a part of the defensive turnaround that led to a Super Bowl victory. Now, House is tasked with rebuilding a defense that has seen a mass exodus following the 21 regular season. Now, House will see a significant pay raise from his predecessors, who was Durante Jones. Jones was the 12th highest paid assistant last season at $1.45 million. Now, House pay will raise $2 million by year 3. Now, House, who was with Kansas City linebackers coach before joining Kelly's staff at LSU, will earn $1.8 million in year 1, $1.9 million in 2 million through the remainder of the contract. Now, House would receive the same bowl game and national championship bonuses as his offensive counterpart, Mr. Denbrock. So what that's saying is that, as you can see, 3-year contracts are now on board for Denbrock, and now you had House to the situation. So the LSU squad is pretty much assembled its staff here moving forward, and now is the time for LSU to kind of move into that thing and start making it right. Now, and like I said, watching that game, I couldn't even watch it. I had to turn the damn thing off. I'm sorry. It was just that terrible of a football. But it was good to see that we finally got some professional guys here, and it will be interesting to see, because I went back and looked at some film footage of the style of offense that Denbrock ran with Cincinnati, and it's not a bad offense. It's actually not as wide open as you would see with how we ran with Joe Brady here when he was the passing game coordinator, but it is an effective style of offense. And I know previously, historically speaking, they had some issues between Denbrock and Kelly early on, but you know how it is. As time goes on, you've seen Denbrock have success in Cincinnati. Obviously, Brian Kelly has had success no matter where he goes. So a lot of people say he's a tough tasker, but you know that is the norm. That if you're a guy that is accustomed to winning, you know what you're doing, and you got to make sure others around you know it, and hopefully you give those guys opportunity to learn what you're trying to teach them in their own way. So you know that's a positive, to be honest with you. So let's keep it moving. Let's go into the next article. And this is also here from 24/7 Sports, is saying LSU wide receiver Trey Palmer commits to Nebraska. As we starting to see a couple of LSU transfers happen after Coach O leaves. This is commonplace that most people would end up leaving and going over and leaving the program and going on to other places, to do their thing. And so I'm not really surprised by Trey Palmer making the decision to go to Nebraska. that's a part of the norm. And we're going to lose a few people, but we're going to gain some people. Such is life. You know what I'm saying, family? Such is life here. And Palmer, much love to him. He had a pretty decent season with us. He was a guy that helped us out in many different ways. And I wish him the best up there in Nebraska. But I tell you one damn thing, you better pack a coat. I'm telling you. Anyway, let's keep it moving. 3 more LSU Tigers bid farewell after the 2021 season. And here's a few we can go over in this article. And really, truthfully, it goes without saying. It's like every year's the same thing that occurs every offseason, but it doesn't make it any easier for student athletes. A trio of LSU Tigers bid farewell on social media. And of course, we know they played on the team that won a national championship in 2019 and sent Coach O out as a winner in the regular season against Texas A&M in dramatic fashion. It was almost a story book ending. The only better way would be for a championship, but Ogeron took his childhood team to the ultimate peak in 2019, could not bring them back. Now, who are the players that are going? Let's take a look and talk about them. Now, the first was Cam Lewis, who played 5 seasons at LSU in 2019 and 2021. He played 11 games each season. The pass was his most productive. He tallied 54 tackles, 2.5 for loss, 2.5 tackles for a loss, a sack and a half, and 1 forced fumble. Punter Avery Atkins was the second player. He served as a holder for junior kicker Cade York in 21. He was named the starting punter and was called upon for 62 punts. Atkins averaged 42.6 yards per punt. And during his 4-year career, Atkins totaled 7 tackles and 1 fumble recovery. Finally, we have a starter at offensive guard. That's Ed Ogeron. For Ed Ogeron, was Ed Ingram. He will work on improving his draft stock before making the jump to the professional league. Ingram played in 45 games over his Tigers career. He was part of the offensive line that protected Joe Burrow in that magical year. And of course, you can see Cam Lewis, the defensive back. He's done for Avery Atkins and saying thank you. And Ed Ingram, there you go, doing his thing. So not only that, but also other guys, that also decided to take that leap as well and go to the next level. And it's just a part of the business of football, that goes on in college. Sometimes people decide to go elsewhere. And this is an example where these guys are ready for going, hopefully, to the next level as their careers look to kind of extend out and finish their careers on a professional level. So that's very intriguing as well. All right, let's keep it going here, fam, and talk about a little commit news or recruit news right now. LSU football target Trevor Etienne, brother of Travis, but he commits to Florida. And this is one we lost. We was trying to get his brother. His brother was from Baton Rouge Catholic, I want to say, and we were trying to get him, and he chose Clemson. Well, like other brother, his brother said, nah, I ain't going to LSU. I'm going to Florida. So he's going out there with Billy Napier to try to build up Florida against LSU. So much love to the young kid. But it's just a part of the game. LSU has to get it together here and build up its base so we don't lose terrific running backs like the CTN kid. 4-star running back and LSU target Trevor Etienne committed to Florida on Saturday. He's 5'9", 218. He's the brother of Jacksonville Jaguar running back. I don't know, and I watched footage on him. I don't think he's as good as Travis, but he still could help. Jennings Starr had LSU, Florida, and Clemson as top 3 schools, and is number 15 running back in the nation, number 14 recruit now in Louisiana, according to 24/7 Sports Composite. And Etienne is Gators' first running back commit of the class. The Florida assistant coach and running backs coach Jabbar Jaluki was the lead recruit of his services. So Jaluki has deep Louisiana ties as a New Orleans native and he is the assistant head coach for the Louisiana Raging Cajuns from 2018 to 21. He was also LSU's running backs coach in 2016 and Tigers lead recruiter in pursuit of Grant Delpit and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, Gators have made a strong recruiting effort in Louisiana after hiring UL coach Billy Napier. And besides hiring Jaluke, Florida also has hired LSU's cornerback coach Corey Raymond, who is well known for the recruiting abilities in the state of Louisiana, to the same position December the 9th. So it goes to show you that Florida digging into, and this is a great point about what Florida not only positioning them as yourselves is not just most, I'm not going to say they're your most key rival here. That obviously goes to Alabama. But Florida is in a position where they've hired Louisiana guys, not guys that's familiar to Florida, but guys that are familiar to to Louisiana, which is now, and Corey Raymond's there. We talked about Jaluk. We talked about Billy Napier. Those guys are there in Florida, so they have that massive Florida base that they can recruit from, and now they're trying to pull from Louisiana base as well. So this is all intriguing at the same time. So you have Florida, and then you take it from Louisiana and the CTN kids, the first of the batch. So watch out for Florida recruiting in the state of Louisiana and the state of Florida. Wow, how about that? If they can put the two together, Florida can have some serious players if they can recruit successfully, so on and so forth. So that's an interesting thing that Florida said, let's go get Napier, and we can use him to draw ties, to draw people from over there to here, and then have this Florida base on. Man, that's pretty unique to think while you think about it. And right now, they won the first battle by getting E10 to go out there to Florida. So I mean, hey man, it's a part of the game, man. You got to be able to start recruiting, and what helps you is you got to win. So we'll see if they can start winning. But anyway, let's hear from, before we finish up with any more articles, let's hear from new LSU coach. Well, not really new, but LSU coach Brian Kelly's, who was on a show that was being interviewed during the Texas game, the bowl game, and hear what his thoughts on moving forward with LSU and what he considers is next. So give me a second, and we'll tune up the coach to hear what his thoughts are on the squad. So give me a second. We'll get that going, fam. Here we go.
And certainly passions run, deep in all of the schools throughout the country. But the SEC is special, right? And everybody has got their passion. But here in Houston, certainly there is a great alumni base at LSU. I was just walking around the Galleria, doing my Christmas shopping that I didn't get to do during incredible time. And just going through the mall, just seeing so many that are LSU fans, you could see that there's an excitement, and I don't want to let them down. So it's going to be fun here moving forward.
Hey, once the game wraps up, what's the blueprint for you? What's this next week hold for you as far as building up this program and doing what you got to do, to make things the way you want them to be? Yeah,
good question. So a lot of the work has been done on support staff, putting together, our organizational plan. Process is so important. So, getting all of those things put together. So when our players get back on campus, the 16th of January, we're ready to go. So getting staff in place, both coaching staff and support staff, and hitting the ground running after Martin Luther King Day, that we can get into the weight room, beginning the development of our football team. So, getting everybody pointed in the right direction. We're bringing in a lot of new staff. I think that's the most important thing, that we get off to a running start here in the second week in January.
Yeah, you bring up that date, and it's not very far off. Are you wanting it to wait so you can get everything in order? Or are you like, let's get here, let's hit the gas and go all the way?
That's a really good question. I think you have to be deliberate. I think you have to be intentional with your work, because you don't want to be hurried. You don't want to be sloppy in the work you do. You have to put your foundation and your base together. And this is the 5th time that I've done this. And you have to start by putting everything together first before you just rush into it. So we've had a good 3.5, 4 weeks to really put all of the pieces in place. And so by the time our players get here, our process, our systems, our organization should be in a pretty good position. We'll still have a little bit more work to do, but when they get here, they'll see the transition has begun to take place.
This is the 5th time I've done this, says Coach Brian Kelly, taking over the position of head coach at LSU. And listen, this is a big jump for him, moving from Notre Dame to the SEC. See, it's coming to the SEC, and a lot of people say, why not stay in Notre Dame? And they were lambasting him for it, because he didn't leave. He really did leave Notre Dame out there, because a lot of people still believe that it's in the 80s, that Notre Dame is the job to be. I mean, listen, no disrespect to Notre Dame, but they're not in the SEC. The SEC is the top college football conference in all of the land. It's just simply what it is. That's why a guy that's a winner like Brian Kelly, who just could have just sat there as their coach until he died, decided to move on from the Independents or wherever the hell they play to the SEC, because he knows that the SEC is the end all be all. Only the best ride the SEC. As you can see, that who's playing for the national championship? 2 goddamn SEC teams that mutilated outside competition. The SEC is the shit. So the bottom line is, the reality outside of that is that he's here and he's got a pretty good launching pad, to be honest with you. LSU simply needs to win. Can this guy win? He most certainly, he's done it everywhere. Grand Valley State, Cincinnati, wherever he's went, he's a winner. He's a winner. The only thing I don't like about Brian Kelly is this fake accent situation that occurred some time ago. Cut that out, man. We don't like that. Just be yourself. We'll accept you. Just win the goddamn games and stop trying to sound like a Southerner. You know, just cut that shit out, man. That's a bad look, man. Cut that. That's like some political shit. I don't like that. Cut that out. But outside of that, the guy is obviously a winner. He was a pretty solid signing by Woodard. I think it's a good call, and he's going to be a guy that has sustained success that Coach O couldn't do. Coach O, that's the problem. He was able to take you there, but then fell off the mountaintop in a steep drop to jagged rocks and 2 back-to-back ridiculous 50, and we wasn't going to go for that. So not only that, the thing is not only just winning is, and they say they want championships. Listen, as an LSU person, listen, let me tell you something. We don't just want championships. That's obvious. Everybody does. But we want sustained success, which means every year LSU is competing up there in the top 5 for a national championship. They're up there competing with the Alabamas. They're up there in the top every year. When you turn on the AP ratings, you see LSU inside the top 5, the top 10 all the time. That's what we're looking for. We have, and then of course LSU, once they start winning, they'll get all of these other recruits to come here. And then of course, you know, in a year or so, you'll have Texas coming over to the SEC, Oklahoma coming into the SEC, and then of course and then that's a whole nother level of football when you got Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC. They're gonna have to reformat a bit, but this is going to be fun. But Kelly is the guy to lead us into that new era of SEC football, and we got a winner. So with that being said, that'll end the show. I'd like to thank all you guys for joining us. Please feel free to hit the like button, subscribe to Tuff Tiger Talk, and join me on this show every week, as we will throughout the LSU offseason continue to bring latest news, notes, and items and commentary. So if you like what you're hearing, we've been doing this for a while now. Subscribe to the show. Feel free to give a thumbs up to the show, and also share the show's links on your social media feed as well. So I'm Big Q chiming in. I appreciate y'all for joining us on the latest installment of Tuff Tiger Talk. I'll be back next week. Go Tigers.
TheWhoThatDaily.com. That's right, TheWhoThatDaily.com. Your one-stop shop for everything New Orleans Saints, New Orleans Pelicans, LSU Tigers, even the top flight boxing news. So if you're a Who That and you're looking for a place to stay up on your team, TheWhoThatDaily.com is your site. TheWhoThatDaily.com for the sport Who That in all of us.